Everybody says that renting is a waste of money, right? But what if I told you that rushing into home ownership before you are truly ready could cost you more in the long run? For anyone who may not know, my name is Kay, giving you the keys to home ownership. And in today's video, I'm going to talk to you about why renting just might be the smartest decision for you to make before buying a home. Before jumping into a mortgage, you need to understand factors like financial stability, the true cost of home ownership, and whether you even know where you want to settle down. Buying a home is a huge commitment, and if you're not ready, it could cost you way more than just renting. So, let's break down 3 reasons as to why renting just might be the best decision for you. Let's get into it. The first reason I'd like to highlight is something I like to call being house immature. Now you may be like, Michaela, what the heck does that mean? But all it is you've never owned a home before. You lack experience in being a homeowner, and that's quite okay. But the benefit with renting is that it gives you a little time to become more experienced on things that you need when you do own a home. For instance, renting gives you time to understand your specific situation. Let's start with your finances. Your budget is so important when buying a home. It's so important that it should be the first step that you do after you've decided that you do want to buy a home. Budgeting lets you know how much money is coming in and how much money is going out. With your budget, you'll be able to determine, okay, I can afford this and I can't afford that. This is how much I have for bills. This is how much I have for my potential mortgage. This is how much I have for my daily life. And it just lets you know where you are and where your numbers are. This also gives you time to look over your credit. If your scores are a little bit on the lower side, or they need to improve a little bit more, or you have a goal of wanting to improve your scores a little more before applying, this gives you time to do that. Knowing your specific situation is knowing your money and finances. You got your budget, you know how much you're making, you know how much you're spending. You know how much potentially you can handle in a mortgage payment. You also have a ballpark of where your credit score might be. Now is a good time for you to start thinking about some of your housing needs and your preferences. What do I mean by that? Do you want a 1-story? Do you want a 2-story? Do you want it to kind of be in the city? Do you want it to be rural or out in the country, away from people? How far do you want your commute to be from your home to your work? Where do you want your kids to go to school? If you take them to school, how far do you want that commute to be? Where are the nearest grocery stores and restaurants and things like that? This gives you time to sit down and think about not only how much can I afford, but where do I want to live? And if you have a family, most importantly, where do I want my family to grow? This also gives you time to mentally prepare yourself for the gap in what you're paying now as opposed to what you'll be paying when you're buying a home. Home ownership comes with a lot of costs that you don't deal with in renting or with anything in general. It's a big responsibility. Some of the home ownership costs that you may run into are HOA or homeowners association fees. Your bills may go up because you're living or housed in a larger space. So electricity, internet, water, things like that are a little bit more expensive as opposed to renting a smaller space. You also have maintenance and repairs when it comes to owning a home as opposed to renting. With renting, the landlord and the maintenance man take care of anything that may break or need to be replaced in the apartment. When you own a home, it's all on you. And it's important that you have money to set aside for when something does happen. A good rule my dad taught me actually when I buy my first home is you take the square footage of the home you're looking to buy or the square footage of the home that you have and you multiply it by 14 cents. And that's how much money a month you should be setting aside for the just in case fund. Also, another part of owning a home that can be kind of confusing is your PITI payment, which is your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. When you apply for a mortgage loan, your lender or your loan officer will explain to you your PITI payment or your PITI. The principal and interest payment are what's fixed. That's not going to change for the lifetime of your loan. But your taxes and insurance aren't fixed. So your property taxes can rise every year, and so can your insurance. With what I do now, I'm a mortgage loan processor, and we tell our clients now that every year in January, you need to shop for some new insurance because the insurance rates are high and they're going up. and switching and seeing where you could get the best deal, saving a few hundreds of dollars here and there every year might be a good move. With renting, it gives you time to bridge that gap. You haven't necessarily owned a home, but mentally and realistically, you've prepared yourself more to become a homeowner. A second reason why renting before buying may be a great idea is if you're relocating to a new area. Maybe you just want to move or for work. This is a good idea because it gives you time to understand and get to know your area. If you're locating from Texas to South Carolina, that's a whole nother way of living. You need to know where the local restaurants and parks and shopping areas are. If you have kids, you need to know what school district is the best. You need to know how far your commute is to go to work from where you're going to be staying. All of those things, the lifestyle things, the everyday things that we deal with are most important. You want something that's going to make your life easier and not harder. And moving from one state to the other, you need time to do that. Also, renting gives you the flexibility to change plans. If your job has just relocated you for 6 months, it may not necessarily make sense to go ahead and buy. When buying a home, it's really quite a long commitment. At least for a minimum of 5 years, you should look to be in that home. 5 to 7, really. If you're not looking to be in that home within that period of time, then you need to go ahead and rent. It may be better off instead of locking yourself down in one place and you just can't get up and walk away. Also, with relocating to another area, like I said, you don't know it. So the cost of living there, it may go up and it may go down. To get some time renting, readjust your budget and the lifestyle of things, you can see where you really stand and if you actually want to live there before you consider looking and buying a home. The third, the last, and the most important reason of the stigmatism that renting has on it is the myth of it being a waste of money or even a waste of time. I disagree. You may hear you're paying someone else's mortgage. Renting doesn't help you build wealth. Renting costs more in the long run, things of that nature, which in a sense, it's true. When you're renting, you are paying someone else's mortgage. You're making all those payments towards something and you won't have anything at the end of it like a home. And renting can be pretty pricey with the way that there's no cap on rent. Rent goes up every year and it's projected to go up every year. But with all of that being said, the myth of it being a waste of money, I think we should look at it different. Let's come from a different perspective. When you rent, if you're renting to buy, it's not a forever thing. You're renting for a period of time. So let's look at it as you're better preparing yourself for when you do buy to prevent wasting money. If you spend, say rent is $1,000 a month and you rent for a year or two, that's $24,000. That's a good $24,000 spent to make sure you're really prepared to get into that $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 commitment. In my opinion, being prepared is priceless. You can't put a price on that. If you're prepared, your stuff is together, and you're like, hey, I'm ready to move, I'm ready to buy, I've done all of my due diligence, you can't put a price on that. There's nothing worth your peace of mind and knowing I'm gonna move into this house and I'm gonna be successful. So when you move, you shouldn't have any regret or remorse because you knew what you were getting yourself into. And then you can reap all the good benefits, like the mortgage interest you can write off on your taxes, or spending your own money for your own mortgage to own your own house, and just the forced savings plan that comes with owning a home, the wealth, the equity that you're building, but most importantly, the family that you're growing and the stability and safety that you feel when living in that home. So, is renting really a waste of money? Not at all. At least I don't think so. The truth is, renting is a great tool to use before buying a home and can even actually end up saving you money in the long run. If you have any questions or personal experiences about renting versus buying, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Till next time, see you in the next one.